Well, hello guys, and welcome to this particular series where we are going to be beginning a new series called Building Secure Fault Tolerant and Low Latency APIs with Java and Spring Boot. So today's video is an introductory video to this series and what we're going to be doing in this series and why I'm making the series in the first place. My name is Ngane Emmanuel and I'm a senior software engineer. I've been building applications for years now, and recently I had talks with some of my colleagues and some other people, and I realized something about those people who are starting up building applications, especially in Africa, especially in Cameroon, right? Most of the engineers, people who are just leaving school, people who have very little experience building applications, they have just the basic knowledge of building APIs. I mean, yes, we all teach REST APIs, we teach different kind of APIs, GraphQL and gRPC or RPC, remote procedure calls. But how do you make this API work in a production environment? Because in a production environment, it's not all about just building the API. There's certain keywords that account for it to be production ready, right? For example, the secure, the fault tolerance, the fault tolerancy, and the low latency of that API, right? So if your API is not secure, then it's not production ready. It is not fault tolerant, then it's also not production ready. And if the latency is not usable, if the application is not usable, which means that for some reason the application takes long for a single request and it is really difficult to use, it loads for a single page will be loading for like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. A single request will take so much time, and the latency of the application is very high. Then we have a problem there, okay? And a lot of people that I've spoken to, especially in my work, in my country, very those newer developers, newer engineers, and even the mid-level engineers, they have very little knowledge about some of the best practices and even the proper understanding of why certain things are being done in the tech industry, especially in building APIs. Yes, for example, someone knows that they use DTOs, right? They use DTOs. Now, this is just me giving examples, so I'm not getting into the, the, the concept itself. But someone knows that, okay, I'm going to use a DTO. If you don't know what a DTO means, you are going to learn it in this series. It's called a data transfer object. But if you use a DTO, why do you use a DTO, right? You just know that you use a DTO to limit data exposure, but do you understand the problem itself? Okay, do you understand why you use a DTO? Do you understand the kind of vulnerability that occurs if you don't use a DTO, if you bind your APIs or your requests directly to the entity? Do you understand why those are dangerous, right? So those are the kind of things that, even senior engineers, we kind of struggle with, not because we have not used it before, but we don't properly understand this concept. And the purpose of this particular series, and what I'm going to be doing in this series is, researching on this, bringing out content, and showing it with examples on the reasons behind the innovations that happen in the tech industry. For example, why we are using DTOs, right? What security vulnerability existed that resulted in the DTOs, right? What other methods that could have been used, and why we are still very bent on using DTOs, and also um, proper understanding on the procedures that it takes to build a production ready API. Now, when I talk about API, you also learn in the next video where I'm going to be introducing the entire concept. I'm going to be introducing the entire concept. I'm going to talk about what are APIs, different kind of APIs, and other information, introduction information. But we are also going to be working with this is going to be a hands-on video where we are going to see a lot of coding in Java and Spring Boot. So first of all, requirements for this video is that you have to understand programming. It is not a beginner's course for learning how to program. You need to understand programming, most likely, and better still, an object-oriented programming language. We're talking about a C-suite programming language, or if you're using if you're using JavaScript, then at least some knowledge of TypeScript will be welcome, because at least TypeScript allows for I mean, object-oriented programming is the standard to the building. So even in TypeScript, to a certain degree, you should be programming in object-oriented manner. It will be preferable for you to have understanding of Spring Boot, but no understanding of this Spring Boot will not cost you the will not prevent you from understanding the concept of this that will be discussed in this series. Though I am using Java and Spring Boot, these are just tech stack that I would rather use. I could use Kotlin, I could use JavaScript, I could use Python, but I prefer Java and Spring Boot. So if you're using C and something or some other thing or Python, it's still the same principles that are going to cut across. The DTOs will not change, the request type will not change, and all that. So the architectural and the structural ideas are not going to really change. So you can implement them in your own tech stack, you can implement them in your own way, in your own environment. We're also going to be taking examples we're going to take basic examples to build this series up. We are not going to complicate things. We are just going to be building simple applications that allow us. So it's a basic CRUD application, like maybe a social media post, maybe something that contains users, something that contains posts and comments and stuff. It is not a learn how to program, but more about exposing what makes an API production ready, right? So again, it is building secure. So we're going to tackle the security aspect of APIs, a lot of them. We are going to be we're going to also be talking about the fault tolerance of your APIs, in essence, availability of your API, right? So also we're going to be touching about consistency, idempotency, and so on. We're also going to talk about the latency of your API, right? And basically in this particular series, we're going to be driving towards creating low latency APIs, which means that APIs that are faster, APIs that are responsive, right? So all the aspects that go into designing a low latency API, we're going to be talking about, we're going to be explaining them, we're going to be researching them, we're going to be talking about the solutions, right, and so on and so forth. And it will be a bonus for those of you to learn about Java and Spring Boot, and it's just a much more easier way to go about these things. That said, my name is Ngane Emmanuel, and once again I welcome you to this series. If you're interested in things like this, please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, comment what you think for each video in this video, and follow me on my socials, which will be linked down in the description of this video, and see you in the next video. So bye.